They Put Dad in a Box by Ryan Gangemi. Outside of a funeral home, double doors are leading in. On the steps of the funeral home is Elizabeth Green, 16. She sits staring at nothing in particular. Her elder brother, Damon, in his mid-20s, emerges from the funeral home behind her, running his hands through his hair and letting out a long breath.
Well, Cecily's decided Dad's funeral is the perfect place to start the 10th crusade.
They put Dad in a box.
Yeah.
You don't believe in heaven, do you?
Oh, we're doing this. Great.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I mean, I know you don't believe in heaven.
Christ, I could have just stayed with Cecily. Look, it's not that I don't. It's...
He walks down to her and sits beside her.
You know, he...
Wait. If you're gonna say, you know he really loved you, don't. I know he loved me. I have 16 years of how much he really loved me. And the amount he loved me doesn't change the amount he's dead.
Fair point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't blame yourself. Dad...
I wasn't driving the car.
Okay, good. Listen, they need me back inside for...
He swerved the car.
Yeah.
When he saw them coming, he swerved the car. I could feel him pressing against my breast like he was going to hold me in place. He saw them coming. I felt him brake. He swerved the car. So they went right into him. I haven't cried. I didn't cry at the hospital or at home. And I'm not crying now. What's wrong with me?
Nothing's wrong with you. People react differently.
But he's my dad. And he died trying to save me, and I'm not crying.
She pulls her knees up to her chin, breathing heavily and hugging them.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. Look, do you remember Grandma's funeral?
I didn't go.
Grandpa Scarlatti?
I was too young.
Grandpa Davis?
I wasn't born. I'm not making this easy for you, am I?
Really not. You're actually pretty unlucky here.
Yeah. My dad's dead.
I mean that you're unlucky that this is your first funeral. Almost everyone else in there has been through this before. They've all seen somebody they love in a box, and they get the routine. Go in, pay your respects, stand in line, kiss the relatives, get out. But you're stuck experiencing this for the first time with Dad being the guy in the box. We should have prepared you better.
How? Funerals 101?
Haley, Elizabeth's friend, emerges from the funeral home. Damon excuses himself, walking off somewhere to give the girls some privacy. Haley moves straight to her friend, hugging her.
I'm really sorry. I got your homework for everything. If you want any help, I'm around this weekend.
Thanks.
Shit, Liz, your dad.
Yeah.
He was by far the coolest guy over 40 I'd ever known. You know he's why I went through my Shelley phase, right? I did that whole vampire thing in 8th grade, and your dad was always teasing me about it. And then he told me about the weekend Mary and Percy Bysshe had at Lord Byron's lake house, and how Mary came away with Frankenstein and how their son died, and he lent me the book.
I know. I remember.
I couldn't put it down. Remember, I did that whole report on Ozymandias in freshman year. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look at my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Shit. Oh, fuck me, Liz.
Don't worry about it.
No, seriously, I am being a basic bitch right now, and you have every right to smack the shit out of me.
No, don't worry about it. Thank you for being here at all.
Yeah, sure. My best friend's dad died. Where else am I going to be?
Mrs. Maxwell exits the funeral home.
Liz,
Mrs. Maxwell,
Robert and I are so sorry about your father. I know how close you were. Haley had only the best things to say about him, even when she was in his class.
thanks.
Damon returns. Mrs. Maxwell rather forcefully takes her daughter's place, not violently, but with the demeanor of one who has places to go and is accomplishing one more chore on a long to-do list.
Liz, if you need anything, you just call, okay, hon?
Sure.
I'm sorry for your loss.
She shakes his hand and kisses his cheek.
Haley, your father's already in the car?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Mrs. Maxwell exits.
I'm so sorry.
Hale, seriously, you don't have to worry about it. You're the best. You've always been the best.
Yeah. And how come we're standing outside your father's funeral and you're trying to make me feel better?
They embrace again, this time with a kiss.
No, if you do seriously need anything.
I'll call.
Promise?
I do. I'll see you in school.
Haley hurries off.
Fake.
You two have been friends since...
Her mom. She's just like, she likes me because I'm a good influence on Haley. If Dad wasn't in a box, she couldn't even have picked him out of a crowd.
It's all right not to cry.
I think there might be something wrong with me.
Why?
Because it's not all right not to cry, because we're supposed to cry when our dad dies, because that's what healthy people do.
You want to point to the healthy person in that room?
You know what I mean? Dad's dead and I haven't cried once. I'm a freak.
You're not a freak.
I am. I mean, I miss him. But every time I think about it, all I can think of is that if there is a God and a heaven and all that stuff, then Dad's just there and he's watching over me and he's happy, and I'm just being selfish, wanting more time with him.
You're not being selfish.
And if there is no heaven, no reincarnation, no nothing, if we just die and go into the ground and get eaten by worms, well, me crying doesn't change that, and me being miserable just uses up my time here.
She looks her brother in the eye.
Can you imagine if this is it? If this is all we have and we waste it being sad and miserable? What the hell did Dad die for then? He tried to save my life. But if I let myself just be sad all the time and I don't live my life, I'm kind of ignoring that. Aren't I?
Honestly, Liz, I don't know.
But the thing is, I am sad. I want him back. I want to get back in the car and go to the store with him. And I want him to bother me about school and make bad jokes and tease me and Haley about being teenagers. I just don't want to cry about it.
The door opens again and their sister, Cecily, emerges. Her face is tear-streaked.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, the war's moved outside.
Bite me.
She rubs at her eyes and then pulls out a pack of cigarettes.
You light one of those up and I'm going to post your whole diary to Facebook while you're asleep.
Cecily stops short, storing the cigarettes.
So, Cecily, how's it going?
Pretty freaking awful.
She joins them, sitting on their opposite side of her brother. She rises again, turning to the funeral home.
Grandma keeps telling me that Dad's in heaven looking down on me. He's with the angels now. If he's in heaven, what's his body doing here?
Dad's funeral. That's a great place to re-up on your personal war against the Catholic Church.
Patriarchal, sexist, child-raping, pro-life bullshit. And Dad would have agreed with that.
How do you figure?
He named you Damon.
Oh, it doesn't mean that.
I know that. But they don't. You know they don't.
Sorry, Sess. Dad was a believer. He had his issues with the church, but what Catholic doesn't? It's practically a rite of passage. Baptism, First Communion, confirmation, deep questioning.
They could use some more questioning. You don't get to tell me how to mourn my own father, you deranged old bigot.
Damon stands up and grabs her by the shoulders.
I'm good. I'm good.
She wipes at her eyes and goes to Elizabeth.
How are you doing? Huh?
I'm okay.
Yeah, because we can get out of here. Go grab ice cream or something. You know, we don't have to stay here.
Yes, we do. It's Dad's wake.
Yeah. Right. Shit. Yeah, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get back in there.
She bites her lip and then returns to the funeral home.
See? Cecily cries and she gets better. That's what's supposed to happen.
I don't think it works like that. I think we all respond to things differently. It's not whether you cry or don't cry. It's whether or not you feel and let yourself feel. As long as you're talking about it, letting it out somehow, that's what's important.
So, you don't believe in heaven?
Liz, maybe you didn't notice. I'm trying really hard to avoid that question.
Yeah, I noticed. When you lived at home, you never went to church.
All right, fine. No, I don't.
So, is it Catholicism you have a problem with, or heaven, or God?
All of it, I guess. I don't believe in heaven. I don't know about God, but heaven.
What do you believe?
Before Damon can answer, the door opens again. Out comes Father Vincent.
Elizabeth, I was looking for you. I'm afraid I can't stay. I have, of all things, a wedding tonight. But I'll be with you tomorrow at the church and the burial. And if you need me for anything, you call the church or...
He pulls out his card and a pen and writes on the back.
This is my personal cell phone and my email. If you or Cecily or your mother need anything, feel free to contact me. You have to be Damon.
I wouldn't say I have to be.
Well, your father and mother talk about you every time I speak with them. They said you found a job with the city. You're organizing the youth summer programs, aren't you?
That's right. I coordinate child and teen athletics and recreation.
Well, that's good. I'd like a chance to talk with you sometime. See what the church can do to help out.
They shake hands and Father Vincent hugs Elizabeth before exiting.
He's certainly not raping anybody.
Well, how can you be sure? He did just ask to help me with the youth.
Stop it. Father Vincent's a really good guy. He's a Jesuit. He teaches at the college, history. He's a really good guy. Dad liked him.
That's what I believe in. I believe in good people doing good things. I believe that people who believe that faith is about finding the best of humanity might as well be Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad. I guess I believe we're all part of the same human energy.
His sister glances over at him and he motions with his hands, trying to explain through motion.
Supposedly, you can't create or destroy energy.
Conservation of energy. Yeah.
So we're walking around using all this energy, but it can't just dissipate. So it just goes somewhere else. I think when we die, our energy passes on through the earth into other things, maybe even other people. I'd like to think that we remain consciousness at some level, that maybe some of our experiences or our thoughts or essence transfer in some way. But if they don't, at least it's our energy going out into the world. Even if it's just moving a wheel or turning a doorknob, we continue on, accomplishing something.
Elizabeth nods her head slowly, taking all this in.
You're not a freak, Liz. You're just one more human trying to figure out how to get through life in the best way you can. Honestly, I listen to you talk, and I'm glad you're who you are. You think not crying makes you a bad person? Liz, listen to the things you're saying. Look at how people react to you. You're loved and you love other people. That's a remarkable thing when you think about it. So if the way you handle Dad's death is by moving right on, trying to live the happiest life you can, I don't think Dad would mind for a moment. And I don't think that anyone can tell you that you're wrong.
Elizabeth thinks on this for a moment, frowning for a long time before a smile spreads across her face, and she stands.
Where are you going?
I don't know. I thought I'd go back and check on Mom, save Grandma from Cecily or Cecily from Grandma, pay my respects to Dad, and then go get some ice cream.
She enters the funeral home. Damon glances after her and then stands up and stands himself, following her in. Blackout. End of play.
Excellent. Great job, everyone. I would like to invite our audience to turn their video back on if they would like, but please leave yourself on mute for now. If you have a question for our playwright, Ryan Gangemi, if you could please either ask it in the chat feature or use the raise hand feature, which is under the participants tab. If you would like to ask him yourself, that would be excellent. So while we wait for some questions, first of all, thank you, Ryan, for writing this play and sending it to us for consideration. I think I was the first one out of us to read it, and I sent it to these guys, and I was like, we should do this one. This is a good play.
Well, thank you for that.
So while we wait for the hard-hitting questions, I'll throw a softball at you. Where did this idea stem from for this play?
I have a fascination with how we move on after death, how people deal with it. And I'm a great believer in people having to have some sort of ceremony. But I myself do not cry at funerals. I have no idea why. You know, I've been to many funerals, many people who are just the love of my lives, you know, or loves of my life. And again and again and again, I haven't cried at those funerals. And so it was something I had to come to grips with over time. This idea of, why am I not crying? And somewhere along the line, I started playing with that. And, you know, originally when I started writing this, it was going to be like a 20-some-odd-year-old man questioning. And bit by bit, I kind of realized I wanted it to be someone a little more innocent, also very intelligent, and came up with this idea of it being a 16-year-old girl.
So this play was almost an exercise in introspection for you.
Oh, yes, very much so.
That's great. So how long have you been writing plays? And I know you also write screenplays, Ryan.
Yes. The first play that I ever had produced was produced in, oh God, when was it? Probably 2000. It was a local theater troupe that sprung up for a little while, took one of my plays and ran with it. I think I was in my junior year of high school. I took some time off of writing for quite a while and got back into it a few years ago.
Oh, great. Well,
I was teaching it for a while, and I was really pushing a few of my students to really go further with their writing. And one of them finally called me out on it and said, you keep saying that we should go out there and do stuff with it. Where's your work? And yeah.
That's great.
Right.
So how has teaching playwriting and screenwriting affected or changed the way you write?
Well, when you start to see all these people's work, and you know, many of my students aren't trying to become playwrights, not trying to go into film writing or anything like that. They're just, you know, it's a basic writing class that I happen to throw a film and theater segment into. And so many of them come through and then just have this amazing work. And as I looked at it, as I saw this work coming in through the years, it really made me begin to see that there are certain parts of storytelling which we as a people just need. And it made me focus on those a little bit more. Before this, and don't get me wrong, I still write this, but most of my work with science fiction and fantasy. I do a lot more drama now. I do a lot more dark comedy. And the reason for that is I'm seeing a lot more of that human element and seeing we kind of need a new mythology, you know, we need new conversations, you know?
Wow. So this play, if I remember you telling me correctly, started as a screenplay that you
Yes.
adapted to a play for the purpose of this for what we're doing with Quarantine
Yes.
Theater.
Yes.
How did it how did the screenplay differ at all from the play we just heard?
The screenplay was very similar. There was a little bit less of the character of Haley in there. When I started writing it as a play, I realized that was a character I could really develop in a way on stage and in this medium where you could kind of take your time, where in film you just have to move, you know? And so I wanted to develop that and Liz and Haley's relationship a little bit more. Yeah.
We have a question from Patrick White and or Chris Foster.
And I'd like to also note that part of it looks like a question to everyone if you want to type an answer to the chat function, but part of it's for the author too.
So the part for the author, Ryan, he says, have you thought about death more in the last 2 months? And for anyone watching that would like to answer, they also ask, has anyone made preparations for the end of their life sparked by the quarantine?
Great. This is actually a great question. No, I haven't actually thought about death more. And the reason for that is, and a few of you know me, I've had a number of immune issues since I was about 20 years old. I like to joke with my friends that my body tries to kill me once a year, every year, which is a very morbid joke, I know, but it's allowed me to look at death many, many times. And I try to live a happier life because of it. At the same time, my wife and my parents will tell you I love to complain about the little things a lot more. But the big things like this quarantine don't scare me nearly as much.
That's interesting. Has the quarantine given you more time to write?
No, because I have 2 children in the house, and every time I sit down to write, well, quite literally, I sat down to write a week ago, and my daughter grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the computer saying, Daddy, come play with me. And you can't really say no to that particular request.
Right. Let's see, I'm looking over the chat feature. Brian Sheldon, one of our co-founders, says, I will never die. A lot of people are saying they've started drinking more. Our friend Laura Darling is she's a lawyer. She says, I've had a lot of friends and family come out of the woodwork asking for free wills since COVID hit. Wow. So while we wait for hopefully some more questions, I'd like to bring in the cast of tonight's play, and if they have anything they want to say to Ryan about this play or the character that they played, please feel free. Yes, I see Sarah has her hand up.
Yeah, no, Ryan, this totally struck me. I lost my dad like 5 years ago, and throughout like that whole funeral everything, like nothing, like nothing. I thought I was not like nothing until like 3 months later. It was the weirdest thing, but my mom and nothing. And I always sort of had the same conversations in my head that like Elizabeth had, like what the hell, like what is wrong with me? Everyone thought I was medicated. There was a lot of wine involved, but for years, I always thought about how weird that was. And like, I've cried at other funerals, but that one was just nothing, totally dry. So, yeah, it was interesting to just see it again, like in this,
Well,
so.
I think sometimes it takes us time, to process whenever we've had something like that. And you always hear people say at funerals, you should cry, you should express yourself. And I've always had this feeling of, but sometimes that lack of expression or sometimes that needing to process it is a normal step, or in the case of Liz in this, the idea of trying to find happiness in other places, Yeah.
If anyone else in the cast has anything, feel free to jump in.
I'm jumping on
Evan,
Sarah's.
there was a question. Wait a minute. Let me just read this because
Yeah.
it came to me privately, but it's for the author. Was there ambiguity in the father's death, or did I miss a revelation about his death? I wasn't sure if he was committing suicide with his daughter in the car. This is from Francesca. I'm sorry, whoever I stepped on.
No, I very much saw it as a very straightforward death. He saw a car coming into their lane and he swerves the car so that they'll hit into him first and not his daughter. And this comes from just years of watching parents, do that throw their arm out thing every time there's any near accident. And I've just always thought to myself, there's a futility to that, but it's every parent in the world has that instinct of, I will protect my kid,
That was also known as the stop short move on Seinfeld.
Yes.
Mary, make your point.
Oh, no. This is very fun. I was just going to jump on with Sarah, is that sometimes, in not just death, but any traumatic event, the reaction that comes from somebody is that there's a weirdness. There's a biological, sometimes you cry, sometimes you laugh. Like I have found myself going like, at the risk of sounding weird, like, which, most people who know me know that's pretty typical, but like, yeah, you can almost laugh because there's a disbelief. You can, there's all sorts of things that come out. And the other thing, and this whole thing that struck me is what we were just talking about, that image of the father reaching out and stopping the child from going through the window. I was in my mid-30s and went to pick something up that I was going to do very carefully because I knew it was hot. And my father said to me, be careful, don't touch that, that's hot. And then the two of us looked at each other and just started to laugh because he was still protecting me. Like he would have protected me if I was 5 and grabbing a thing that was hot. It's just weird, the biological stuff that we just do.
And I also was really reminded of something with the 3 siblings. We lost my great uncle died right before quarantine hit, like early February, and it was sudden, but he was very unhealthy for a very long time. Like it happened. And of course, like when I got the phone call, I was very upset and I cried in my office. And then I remember being at his funeral, and this is a man who wouldn't have wanted me to cry. Like he wouldn't have, everybody knows that you're upset when you lose a loved one, but we were at this funeral at his wake, cracking jokes, and just telling great stories about it. So like I've started to focus more on that. I mean, of course I'm upset about death. Death sucks, but we're all going to go through it. We're all going to hang out together on the other side somewhere. And I just remember that I wore my Yankee tie. This is a man who introduced me to baseball. And I just told baseball stories about my funny, chunky uncle who was just a laugh a second. So I really, I can look at these siblings individually and go, okay, so this kid got this kid got that, and that kid got the other thing. And I think we all have that because my sister was crying at the funeral. I was cracking jokes, and my brother's a redneck. So it was, every funeral is different, every death is different. So that's what I got.
I just I wanted to give a special thank you to Mary Darcy, because she kind of filled in for us at the very last minute. Terry Storty was slated to be in this week's show, but unfortunately her mother passed away yesterday. So she obviously couldn't concentrate on this. So I asked Mary Darcy at like 1 p.m. yesterday if she was available, and she said, of course I am. So firstly, I wanted to say thank you, Mary Darcy, for filling in and doing such a good job. And also I wanted to let Terry know that we're all thinking about her. Anyone that knows Terry Storty, she's just the best and the happiest person. And it's a terrible thing to have to go through. So hang in there, Terry. We're all with you.
And so I will piggyback on that, Evan, and I'm not trying to take away anything from Terry, but a lot of us lost a friend this week. We're on the topic of death right now. My longtime friend, a lot of your longtime friend, Debbie Loomis, passed away this week. Debbie was not elderly, but she was in our community that you all are in, was a very well-known costume designer. She was very talented. She had a smile that would light up the room. She had a laugh that would go through you the best way possible. So rest in peace, Debbie. It's a great loss for our community.
Bringing it back to Ryan and this play, we got a couple comments saying that people they've thought less about death and they've thought more about life during this quarantine, which is, I think, a pretty fascinating thing, that there's been so much death from this whole pandemic and this whole situation that everyone in this world is going through. But a lot of people are looking on the bright side and letting the positivity affect them rather than the negativity. And I don't know, Ryan, if that's something, when you sit down to write this play, if that's something you are aware of that you're going to get out of people, or if you went into it thinking I'm going to do this, or if it's just a happy accident.
Well, I've always found that there is something about looking at death and being honest about death that makes you enjoy life a little bit more. I don't get me wrong. I've had periods in my life where I've been beaten up by everything. I felt down. I felt very sad about, things. And as I said, I like to complain about just about everything if you let me. But I found those times where I've had to look at death and go, oh, this is going to happen, or it's not going to happen, and that's all there is to it. It allows me to focus more on, oh, hey, that person I really love and haven't seen in 6 months, I'd really like to see them. I've been fighting with my wife a lot. Maybe I should stop doing that, and we should really start doing all the things we love to do. I think I'm gonna call my grandmother. Or something like that. It makes you remember all those things that are best about our lives, and we don't have to take any major movements. Just these quiet little things that allow us to really remember the best,
Yeah. Great. Looks like we have a raised hand from Alan Angelo. So if they would like to unmute themselves, they can feel free to make their comment or ask their question.
Yes. Brian and everybody, Schenectady Light Opera, I don't know if you're on their mailing list, but they have a nice little tribute, because I do history for them. And I didn't write this, but the company did, about Debbie Loomis, because I've worked with her too. Do you have that? If not, I'll email it to you, Brian.
Yeah, sure, buddy. Email it over. That'd be nice. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
If anyone has any questions, we still have a couple more minutes. But I think we're probably gonna start wrapping it up soon.
Mary Darcy has a question.
Mary Darcy,
I don't have a question, but I have something that I was trying to add a link in the chat and it wouldn't let me. But all I keep thinking about is, if anybody gets a chance, if you haven't seen it, I'm totally dating myself, is Chuckles the Clown. There's a Google Mary Tyler Moore, Chuckles the Clown, David Rook knows. And it's Mary Tyler Moore and everyone from the newsroom at the funeral of Chuckles the Clown. And it's like appropriate and inappropriate behavior when someone dies. It's the best example of that.
Ryan, what are you working on right now? Anything?
I am always working on something. I've got a few plays that I'm working on right now. One about being a cop in an inner city neighborhood, basically right now in time. I'm looking at a few other things, but that's what I'm concentrating on.
It looks like our friend John Nichols has his hand raised. If he'd like to unmute himself and put his video up, you can.
This is just this is me being a pedant who has a master's degree in English language and literature. It's Ozymandias.
Nerves.
Yes.
Sorry. Nerves.
We'll make sure we hit that on the next performance, John.
And if Steve from Classic Theater Guild wants to come on again, just to give another pitch and encourage people to donate, by all means, please do.
Or don't.
They got me nervous. I was trying to hit that unmute button. I just want to say I'm on, right?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to thank once again Evan and Brian and David for starting this for all of us, for every theater group, and what you've done to keep this going. And I think one of the reasons we're all looking forward to coming out of this, which is in line of maybe not looking back at death, but looking forward, is because of what you're doing. And we're all excited about theater, and we're all excited about getting back out there. So thank you all for this. Thank you to everybody that donated to us. And we'll continue to do this and continue to donate to theater group after theater group until we're through this. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So it looks like we are at $1,043 raised for Classic Theater Guild, which is really excellent. Thank you, everyone who has donated. And if you're going to donate right after this, that's even better. The donation link will be active until Wednesday. And, we encourage everyone, even if you haven't seen a Classic Theater Guild show, please support them. The more money we can raise, the more stuff they can do, and then the more stuff we all get to enjoy.
Can I make a quick plug?
Sure.
Stay tuned for auditions. We haven't hammered things out yet with the COVID and all that, but if we have to do them online, we'll do them online. But if you guys are interested in getting back on the boards after this is over, we're looking at end of October, early November for the show. So something to think about if you guys want to get back out there.
Yeah, hopefully,
Thanks.
hopefully all that, happens. Hopefully we're not still locked up by then. So it looks like we're wrapping up here. I would like to say on behalf of Quarantine E-Theater that we are going to be taking next week off. So next Monday, we will not have a reading, but the following Monday, we should be back on our regular schedule. Now that this pandemic and this quarantine is hopefully starting to wind down, we made this plan a while ago that we were going to do, we're going to spread them out a little bit more, and give these companies possibly another opportunity to raise funds, but we don't want to do it too close to each other. So next weekend, on Monday, find another Zoom to attend because we won't be here, but the following Monday we will be here.
And David,
Yes, I have an announcement to make.
yeah.
For everybody who's enjoying this virtual theater. Virtual Be Seen has been an ongoing mainstay at Schenectady Civic Players for several years now. In the past couple of years, I co-produced that with Colleen Lovett. We're doing it on a virtual basis this year. We changed our format. We have submissions at this point. And on Saturday, June 13th, we'll be doing Virtual Be Seen 2020, Pandemic and Quarantine. It's all original work, local original work, inspired by the quarantine and or lockdown, pandemic, etc. And that'll be at 7:30 Saturday, June 13th. And it's not a quarantine e-theater event, but
we all work there.
We've all done some work there. It's a great organization, and we'll be raising some money at that time too. And I think Colleen's on the call here tonight. She can wave. There you go. So we have 12 submissions at this point. I don't know if any more came in. Today was the deadline, so I'm not asking for more submissions necessarily. But please come and attend and support Schenectady Civic Players. It's a great organization.
Great. Well, I think that'll do it for tonight. I want to thank Ryan Gangemi, our playwright, for giving us this play and allowing us to run with it. I want to thank the cast that we assembled for being pros the whole way. And I want to thank Steve and everyone from Classic Theater Guild for their enthusiasm. And thank everyone who is watching this. Thank you for tuning in. We have a lot of repeat customers, which is excellent.
And our submissions are not closed either at our website at quarantineetheater@gmail.com. If you're still looking to get your play read, make sure you're sending it over to us to read. No promises, no promises. We don't pick the plays just because you're our friends.
Brian?
Yeah.
This is Alan. John Ray Huser had a question. Go ahead, John.
I simply wanted to thank you all for putting this production and making it possible and allowing me to attend it. That's all.
Well, we're glad you made it, John. Thanks for stopping by. So, boys, I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And if our cast and crew can hang around just for a moment as our
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to Theater Night in the Capital Region.
Have sweet dreams of pandemics.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Everyone. Make theater.
And if you have donated, please share the donation link.
The donation link will be up until Wednesday. You can give to this wonderful theater until Wednesday. So make sure you're sharing it when we post it on our Facebook. Make sure you're telling friends about it. Make sure you're donating all of your money to. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you not next week, but the following.
Thank you.